This is indeed a report on the trip that I made not that long ago, beginning toward the end of November, going into the early part of December. And it was not as long a trip as I've been making recently. The places that I visited were really relatively well clustered together. Visited Korea, visited Singapore, visited Vietnam. And I wanted to explain, I usually would not take two overseas trips that close together. But the last time I made a trip, you see that nice flight from Korea into Texas, I changed planes in Korea knowing I was only a couple of hours away from Ian Stockton, who's in the military there. And it was painful to me to go by there and not have an opportunity to see him. Well, then not too long after that, I got an invite to speak at a lectureship in Singapore. And that's a long way to go, just to speak on a lectureship. I don't think I'd go that far just to present one lesson, but I thought, well, I had already talked to Ian. He could arrange some opportunities for me to preach in Korea. And I thought, surely I can find some other place to go along the way. So that's the reason they were so really relatively close together. In the beginning, thank you all. I am so grateful for the sense that I get that you partner with me in these endeavors. Thank you for your prayers, your interest, your encouragement in so many different ways. And as I've said before, your interest is an encouragement to me, and for your financial support. The first place that I went was indeed Korea. I did an expanded area here. One thing that's interesting about Seoul, Korea is the airport's in Incheon. It's a long ways away. It's a 30-40 minute train ride to get out. It's almost out there in the islands. But flew in there, the end of this red era, it's the end of that red era. Korea was the first place that I went. In Dallas, I got on a nice big plane, and it was a good thing that it was a nice big plane because it was indeed a long ride, over 6,800 miles. And if you saw at the top of the other chart, something close to a 15-hour flight just for that one leg. But I got there, and I changed planes in Incheon before. Beautiful airport. Had an opportunity on this trip to see a couple of the nicer airports in the world, and on a journey, that's kind of nice if you have a nice, clean feeling, modern-looking airport to spend the time in. But arrived there, and just a couple of words about the city. Modern buildings, modern-looking people, but then right across the street is the indications of the idols. If you can see the temple, this is a close-up of some of the idols that were there. Modern-looking people doing the same things that people did 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. Worshipping chunks of stone, worshipping chunks of wood. I don't intend to do this but this one time, but I thought some might be disappointed if they didn't get a little sample of the international cuisine. There is the McDonald's, and the pictures look familiar, but if you can see the words underneath the pictures, the words do not look familiar. So I'm always very grateful for the pictures, so I know what I'm getting. And on my last journey, somewhere in the middle of it, I got this message from the Ruckers. Roy Rucker, he was in Korea. And I really didn't realize that in the beginning. And I got a message from him that said, "Oh, when are you going to come to Korea and see us?" And I sent back, "Be careful what you wish for. You might get it." And you might get it a lot sooner than you think, because, I knew that at least that was in mind. And so I had a chance to join up with them. First night there, they took me to the military installation, one of the nice dining rooms there, and gave me a very nice meal. Roy and Monifa. And I will tell you, those are two people have very fond memories of the time that they spent in this congregation, and fond memories of you. And they were my host, had a very nice house there, very, very good accommodations. The bed and breakfast for me there in Seoul, Korea was excellent. Had a chance to preach in two different congregations. The first was the Korean congregation, Hangnam, and I'm sure my pronunciations are not that good. It was in a very crowded part of town. You see those tall, each one of those little sections is almost like a separate building that you go up, and they were a part of one of those. There's the door in. What I found is overseas the church buildings are always on at least the fourth, if not the fifth floor that you walk up to get to. But that's fine. But there we are in the front. There's Roy, looking dapper as ever. That is Malcolm Parsley. When I began to talk about going to Korea, Roy put me in contact with Malcolm. Spent there over 50 years in Seoul, Korea. So he was kind of my host. The person on the left, as you will see, was the person who did the translating for me. And indeed, there I am preparing to speak. And I thought I would give you just a little sample of what that sounds like.
Remember that familiar passage in James 2:18. 여러분, 야고보서 2장 18절 아직 익숙한 말씀 기억하시죠? It says, I will show you my faith by my works. 나는 내 행함으로 믿음을 보이리라. What you do indicates where your faith is. 여러분이 행하는 그것이 여러분의 믿음이 어디 있는지를 드러냅니다. Now this is of great practical importance to us today.
우리 삶에도 매우 실질적으로 중요한 의미를 지니는 말씀이 되겠습니다.
We can use it to give ourselves a test of where our faith really is.
You can compare and contrast that to the other translator that was translating for me in the other congregation. How great it is. Find these people doing the same things that we do in the same biblical way. What a joy. And of course, what would a visit to a congregation be without the dinner on the grounds, or whatever you would call it, the potluck, and the ladies who dutifully prepared it. And I would tell you some of the items of food were kind of like things we have here, but the taste in Korea to me was very, very different. Going between the two congregations, Malcolm needed to do some shopping, so that was kind of interesting. We went to one of the big supermarkets there, and I guess in a lot of ways, very similar to the ones that we have here. Korea, very modern, very clean, very neat. The other congregation is kind of an interesting story. It was the military congregation, the one that met on the military installation, except that the military installation kept imposing almost fees on them. The amount of their contribution had to be sent, to contribute to the general work, and they became uncomfortable with that, so they moved off. And they are sharing in this building, as you see from the bottom there, very nice building. Both places have, very good facilities to meet in. Now, here's the other translator for a minute or so. Notice the gesture.
Discouraged and want to quit.
여러분들이 희망하고 그만둬야 되겠다 이렇게 한다면,
Especially when things are difficult.
특히 이제 일이 잘 안 될 때만입니다.
You need to work on your hope.
여러분들은 소망을 가지고 키워야 됩니다.
How do you work on your hope?
어떻게 소망을 가지고 이제 일할 수 있습니까?
I preached a series of sermons about the great promises that God has made to us.
근데 나는 여러분이 이제 시리즈를 해서 하나님께서 우리들에게 준 그러한 약속에 대해서 이제 설명한 적이 있습니다.
The basis of our hope, our confidence in those good things, is promises of God.
우리가 그 소망은 이게 하나님의 그런 약속에서 온다는 것입니다.
Good brethren, competent brethren felt very comfortable that they were translating what I was saying. The challenge for the translator is trying to figure out when they're about to finish, so you will know when it's time for you to start again. But I'm sure they have the same problem with us. They kind of know when I'm about to finish what I'm saying so they can start. And finally, those responsibilities taken care of, the next morning we had some time. I was in the car with Roy and Manifa, and we were headed to the place we were going to have breakfast with Ian Stockton. And Roy's car broke down. So the breakfast with Ian Stockton is not yet fulfilled. That was very, very disappointing. But finally what they wound up doing was putting me in a cab to send me to the train station to catch the train out to the airport, which, was at least some instructions I managed to do okay. And it was a long train ride. It was a very nice train, headed out. It was an express train. Got on the train downtown Seoul, express train out to the airport. So there I'm back in the very nice airport, looking all around at the very big signs, trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go to catch my plane, which I eventually did. And there is, what's the military expression? There's Korea in my rearview mirror. It's a beautiful place. And again, the airport is way out, away from the city, out in the island area. So from there, went to Singapore. I think you can see here, that's the little screen they show you in the airplane. There's Incheon up by Seoul, Korea, and then down here to Singapore. I'll show you in a minute kind of where Singapore is down here. I kind of took a part of the map, I'll enlarge it. Singapore's not very big. It used to be a part of Malaysia. It's no longer part of Malaysia. It's just to the south of one part of Malaysia, but 2 or 3 different parts of Malaysia. It confuses me. But all of that's south of Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam. And I tell you, maybe I was headed for the only airport in the world that's prettier than the one there in Korea. But it was a very nice airport. And in Singapore, since I was going there for the conference, other brethren were there. And I think you will probably recognize Billy Bland and John Grubb. And what a joy that was. As you know, most of the journeys I take alone. And in many ways, I prefer it that way. 3 or 4 people are going together to a place. That means that one person's preaching and other 2 people are just sitting there listening to it. Seems kind of like a waste of resources. So I usually travel alone, but since I was going to this lectureship there in Singapore, these brethren were there, and it was a joy to be able to spend time with 2 very pleasant people. Not only good preachers, not only faithful Christians, fun guys to be able to walk around Singapore with. And we did. If you can see down here, Singapore is just a beautiful city. There's Billy Bland, and that's Tim Hayes. You may not recognize his face, but if you could hear his voice, you would recognize him because he's Ronnie Hayes' brother. And he speaks the same dialect of Alabama that Ronnie Hayes does. Just a joy to sit and listen to him talk. But this thing in Singapore is this merlion, the thing sort of the worldwide symbol, M-E-R-L-I-O-N, and I thought that's a strange word until they explained to me, well, you have mermaid, that's half fish and half person, so the merlion is half fish and half lion. That's sort of the symbol of Singapore. And while I was there, I found Noah's Ark. The reason that we couldn't find it, you see, was it got stuck up on top of all these very tall buildings. So I never saw anything like that before. Evidently, it's a part of the hotel or apartment complex. And if I could zoom in, you can see people up there. It's some observation deck. Anyhow, a little bit of the scenery there in Singapore. Singapore, beautiful city. A lot neater and cleaner, more modern than a lot of the cities that I wind up in. So I greatly appreciate that. The building there is the same building that I visited about 15 years ago. On the way to India, we stopped at the Jurong Church of Christ. There also is the 4 C's College of Bible and Missions. And they share this building here. I added this one just so you can see what's next door. It's a pagan worship place right next door to the Lord's Church. But the Lord's Church is there, and that particular building houses 2 things. One, it houses the Jurong Church of Christ. And I think on the 4th or 5th floor of the building is the 4 C's College of Bible and Missions. And the person I did see there that I recognized from quite a while ago is Eddie E. He is the preacher, has been for many years, of the Jurong Church of Christ. The other people there is Peter Chen, who is the director for the past several years of the 4 C's College of Bible and Mission, and that's his wife, Pui Fun. And as I began to correspond with him, what I found out from Jennifer was he was in the Memphis School of Preaching at the same time that John and Jennifer were. And he had wondered what happened to Jennifer. He'd lost track of Jennifer. So I said, I can put you in touch with Jennifer. So they treated me as long-lost friends because of their association with Jennifer. Very polished, very competent guy. He was sort of the MC for many of the services. We have some good. And that's college there, that preaching school. You have to be able to speak English to go there. So although we have colleges, preaching schools that are distributed in different places, Cambodia and other places, this is one, but I remember from 15 years ago, you could speak English there. There was not the problem of translation. And the translation is not just a problem as you speak to other people. If you're trying to even teach 2 students in a class, if you have to listen to them through a translator, you're missing a lot of the tonal feedback. It's just a much better environment. So those people who know English are able to go there and get their Bible and their preaching education. And I've benefited greatly already from the contacts that I made there. Of course, was there for the lectureship. The title of the lectureship was Who is Jesus? First morning we met there is the chapel service at the 4 C's College there. Man, what wonderful singing. That was a great experience in and of itself. But of course, was there for the lectureship in the main auditorium downstairs. They met and very good attendance, it seemed to me, at the lectureship. And I did have my opportunity to speak there. The theme of the lectureship was Who is Jesus? My topic was Jesus, the Son of God, which I very much enjoyed. So finished the responsibilities there and getting ready to head to Vietnam. Why Vietnam, you may say? I said when I agreed, accepted the invitation to speak there, I'm pretty sure I could arrange some places to speak in Korea, and I thought, well, surely there'll be some other place. It turned out to be Vietnam. Why? Because of these three guys right there. I will tell you, this is the three unlikely amigos. The one on the left is from Vietnam. The one in the middle is from Texas, as you know. This guy's from China. If he looks vaguely familiar, the last day that I was teaching in China, in Hefei, China, the man who was the foundation of that congregation there, his nephew came that one day to visit. That nephew was George. And so when I began to look around for a place, I had kept in touch with George, and he told me there, I checked on the website, and he confirmed they were students at the 4 Cs that were from Vietnam. And I said, is there anybody that's already graduated and gone back to Vietnam? And he says, yes. And he gave me the email address of Hung Hai Hoon, which I will just call Hai. And what a great arrangement that was. So there's the guy from China, the guy from Vietnam, and the guy from Texas. And both of those are delightful brethren. We enjoyed that very much. What an unusual connection, though, I thought, from learning somebody in Vietnam from someone in China. Getting ready to leave Singapore, got back to the nice airport too early. The place was closed. But eventually they opened up, and was ready to catch my flight. Could not get a flight from there directly into the town where Hai lived, the town of Can Tho, where they would pronounce it Can Ta. But I had to go to Ho Chi Minh City, which we would call Saigon, probably from several years ago. And there's the airplane. And I will tell you, right there was the first of the pleasant surprises that I encountered in Vietnam. I was just expecting more of a third world environment, not very neat. Frankly, I was expecting some resentment. Somebody from the United States of my age, they would likely have known about the war in my youth, and I was very likely a participant in it, which I was in 4 years in the Air Force. But there was really none of that. But the plane, I thought, well, this will be a substandard plane. Well, it's not. It was excellent. It was as good as any. The first of many very pleasant surprises. So on the plane from Singapore up to Ho Chi Minh City, which we would call Saigon, and then to go from there over to Can Tho, you can just barely see it right there. 3.5-hour bus ride, and again, bus ride. Overseas countries, what I had seen was the buses in India, and I thought, oh no. But I tell you, the correspondence with Hai, he says, brother, I will take good care of you. And he said that at enough times in enough different ways that I just really trusted him. And he did. The bus? Well, what first? We got to the airport, and we flew in on different airlines, but we managed, thanks to Facebook communications, couldn't text message because different cell phone services. Thanks to Facebook messaging, we got together there, and that is what now would be famously known as a selfie. That's me taking the picture of the two of us in the cab, and we took the cab clear across Saigon, I guess, to the other side to catch the bus. And there's the bus, and you can see that to go to Can Ta or Can Tho was a mere $120,000. So, which is less than $6. The bus ride of 3.5 hours across the Mekong Delta costs less than the cab ride across town to be able to get to the train station. And the bus would have made the Greyhound buses jealous. It was an excellent bus. And if you saw the internet, you will know that they had Wi-Fi. So Hai and I think one reason we got along together was both of us were kind of techie kids. You know, and we're sitting there checking our Facebook and checking our email and all of that. And so, who would have thought Wi-Fi on the bus across the Mekong Delta? But we got to his hometown of Can Tho. I'll just call it that. They call it Can Ta, that's how they would pronounce it. Checked in, and probably the lobby was very much like the lobby of a small hotel in a foreign country. Oh yeah, except for all the motorcycles. You know, if your customers can park their motorcycle in your lobby, I don't guess you have to worry about a parking garage. It's just not a town. But not a problem. Hotel, very inexpensive, $15 a night. That worried me. It was not. It was very clean, it was cool, it was neat. Another one of many very pleasant surprises. And the next one came the next morning. Hai picked me up and took me to breakfast, and oh, we're going to have looks like pho, pronounced pho for breakfast. I thought, okay, I'll be okay with this. It was excellent. It's that noodle-looking thing that's got the meat in it, it's got the broth. Ah, I love soup, and that was as tasty a broth as I ever had. It was excellent stuff. And I put some of that on the Facebook, and I had friends from the Washington, D.C. area and friends from California chipping in on the Facebook saying, yeah, Vietnamese food, you're going to love it. It's excellent. So, after breakfast, we started toward the church building. How do you get to the church building? Well, you get on the back of the motorcycle. A little slightly different experience, but it really wasn't too far from there, around a few corners, to the street where the church met. Didn't have a separate church building here, but it was a row, it was a street of houses, some of which were used for businesses, some of which were used for residences. Again, clean, neat, beyond my expectations. You may see some like coconut hulls there. Well, some of the little houses were used for shops. One of them was used for I guess kind of a grocery store. One of them was used for a mechanic shop. This right along the same street. You never have to go very far to get anything. It's like the corner groceries are distributed all through the street. Very good, very convenient. And indeed, I began to eat the food there. Sometimes I would get my breakfast as a small loaf of bread at one of the corner vendors. I would never do that anymore. But there, it was just that comfortable, just that much of a pleasant surprise all the way around. And along that street was the church building. This right here is where the church meets. This is one of High's relatives. High has many relatives that are Christians, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But inside that gate was the room where the church met, and that's High. I don't know whether he's introducing me or leading the singing. He's doing something there, and that was the place that I preached. And let me just explain, I'll let you listen to this video for a second. People commented about the wallpaper. It's not wallpaper. It's painted that way, and I think it was High's dad. High's dad is a Christian. His father and mother are Christian. I'll tell you how wonderful that is. In fact, I think they've been converted before he was. But they painted it. They had a roll that went across there. Maybe you can see it better, but here's the...
The third pair of words that Paul uses in this verse are hope and patience.
Và cái điều thứ ba mà Paulo muốn nói trong cái này đó là cái sự bền dỗ và cái sự trông cậy, có nghĩa là cái niềm hy vọng.
Many times that word patience in the Bible means endurance or persistence.
Nhiều khi trong sách Kinh Thánh cũng nói đến sự bền dỗ, có nghĩa là chúng ta tiếp tục.
It means that we persevere, we keep going even under difficult circumstances.
Cái sự bền dỗ có nghĩa là chúng ta có thể là tiếp tục trên đó, mặc dù chúng ta sẽ gặp những cái sự khó khăn trong cuộc sống.
After the services, they took pictures of all of us. There's those that were assembled. They asked me if I wanted my picture taken with the young people, and I said, sure, this is the one that I call the young and the young at heart. So they would keep you young at heart. They truly would. Pleasant disposition, pleasant personalities, very enjoyable people to be around. That's me, that's High's father, as I indicated, also a Christian. About the member visit and the benevolence, some of the members live along the river, and so how do you get to their house along the river? Back on the motorcycle. So I thought I'd give you just a glimpse of that. And you may say, Stan, that's a pretty nice path alongside the river. That doesn't look that bad. And it doesn't. But that's the part that I was willing to take one of my hands loose to hold the camera. There were parts of it that I was hanging on with both hands. I wish I had a picture of those, but no way. So we got down there and we visited one of the members. Again, here we are along the river. This is the view out the front of the house. There's the river and the house. Very nice looking house. Houses had internet service. You see the couple of little wires running into the house, even way down the river. In one person's house talking, they come in the room with a computer. One of their daughters lives in Pennsylvania, and they were having a a video conversation over their computer out by the river. It was just amazing to me. Oh yeah, the river, the dirty, murky-looking river, I got a whole new impression of that too. Evidently, it's that color because of the minerals and the nutrients that it has in it. And one of the people that we visited, I got some sandals on and walked up and down the farm. It was amazing. And they had the canals. They're close enough to the river, I guess, that they get the flooding. And there was one place I looked, and there was water, and it was just swirling, going round and around, and I thought, what is this? But evidently they have a very large PVC pipe. When the river comes in, it floods their canals, waters their crops, and then, as it goes out, they have a return system to get the water out of there. And I could not begin to explain to you the wonderful different kinds of vegetation that they had. I love to have shown that to you. Just not enough time. But you see the little canoe that they have for going up and down the canals, to check on the canals, to check on the crops. But the benevolence visit, after the family visit, we went to a little shop. Even along the river, you can't go very far without running across some little shop. And bought some things and took it to the family. And this is me, this is Hyde, this is the woman and the two children there. Again, even the benevolence visit. The house has got some problems, but it's clean. It's neat. The kids are clean. The kids are neat. And let me explain. You see this person sitting right here? This person sitting right here? Those are two of High's cousins. And what an asset to the church they are. They go along on the benevolence visits. They're the ones that teach English in the school, as I'll show you in a minute. They just have a lot of things that they're involved in together there. You just have to have a good feeling about the church and the city because of the close association and the work that they do together. By the way, the people that we visited, they came to the services the next time. That's good. High's parents insisted that I come and have dinner with them. They are both cooks. And what they do for a business is they run an internet cafe. High's very techy. Couldn't get on Facebook in Vietnam. He says, I'll fix it for you. He goes down deep in the bottom of my computer, copies his big bunch of code, pastes it in another place. I say, we on Facebook? Fine after that. Very, very smart young man. But that's the internet cafe. And as I said, they came, and there's High's dad and High's mom, both of them. What High says, good cooks, and from what I had, that's certainly the case. There we are. And this is why I think it was High's dad that did the painting of the wallpaper, because it was there. I kind of figured out what they built. One thing that they do there is teach English. In that same building, and again, one person said, Stan, you got to be really careful there. You don't want to do anything that's going to bring too much attention to the church. But when I talked to the people that were there, it was very, very different. You may recall one of the Facebook messages. I said, when I get to where they are, I may not even get on Facebook from there or identify where I am. Very different environment than I expected. This is inside that same building. They have lots of young people there coming to learn English. I think this is the way that they're getting visibility in the community. And that young lady, and these people are all about 5 or 10 years older than they look like. She's, somewhere in her 20s, but she is the teacher of the class. But she was gracious enough to allow a guest lecturer for that occasion. And to give you some idea of how well attended the classes are, there's the bicycles out front. And you can also tell the attendance by the shoes out front. And these tests that you would have in school or you'd find in the papers, which item in the following picture is different than all the other items? Can you identify which thing is different? Let me just say that when I left, I took off my shoes, but they let me keep on my socks. If I can keep on my socks, I'm fine. But when I left, I had no problem finding my shoes. Not only to teach the English class, they had several opportunities to teach several of the people there, several of the members teach the Bible. And you can probably tell from my face that I enjoyed that very much. They had good questions. Serious students of the Bible. Now I want to tell you about this right here. Can you kind of tell even in that picture that there's a picture of somebody? That man's name is Tom Toon. And what a debt of gratitude we, the Lord's Church, owe this man. He was in Ho Chi Minh City, and one of Hai's relatives went there, I think going to college. Several of his cousins have been to college, in four-year college. Taught her. I think one or two others went there, he taught them. Finally, he moved to Can Tho, to Can Thap, where they live, and began to teach others and teach others. And someplace in the process, he taught Hai. And Hai's been Christian long enough that he'd already been to the 2-year school at Singapore and had been back for most of the year, the time that I went there. But this man, I tell you, he had a great affection for them, and they had an enormous affection for him. His plan was to die there. He had gone back to the States to sort of put his affairs in order. He had planned to go back to Can Tho to live the rest of his life there, teaching and working with the church. He died when he was in the States. And you can see, when I was there, well, even now, less than a year ago, that he died. And evidently, I reminded them of him. And they latched on to me with such an affection that was absolutely contagious, I will tell you. The affection was mutual. But a number of Hai's family members. Hai was not the first Christian that was converted. There were others that were first. And he had so many family members that were around there. I said, you got to draw me a chart here. I'm getting confused. So this is Hai's family tree. And quite a number of those people are indeed Christians. And some of these continue to communicate with me since I've been back, speaking. One that I didn't meet when I was there, another his family member. I wrote Hai. I said, I don't know where to put that guy on this chart. I can't find him on the chart. But then we took a night not the night before I left, but a couple nights to go downtown sightseeing. And what you see over there on the streets at night, you see lots and lots of motorcycles. Very few cars. Very few. Kind of almost a problem when you encounter a car. But I don't know where they would put the cars. Can you tell in that picture how far back that sea of motorcycles goes? But we did go down there, found a parking place for the 3 or 4 cycles full of us that went down there. Had a very nice meal. This is one of Hai's sisters. I think this is another relative. This young guy here, again, he's about 5 or 6 years older than he looks. His name is Dat, so I call him Dat-com. Or .com. Always looking at a phone, always on a computer. There's Hai. This is Hai's girlfriend. I won't tell you just a little bit about her. I think it would be nice to add her to your prayers. Very nice one, which doesn't speak any English at all. She's not a Christian. And Hai and I kind of talked about that because in Singapore, and Hai was in Singapore, while I was there, he was there for the lectureship, and I served on a panel that was answering questions from the crowd. And as part of one of the questions, I was emphasizing, marry a Christian. Just do not take the risk of not marrying a Christian. And he talked to me later, and he says, brother, all the young Christians that I know, all the young ladies that are Christians, they're my cousins. I think that's not a joke. I think that's literally true. And so he is dating this person, and I don't know whatever. On the Facebook, she's PJ, so I don't even know what her real name is. They have their nicknames, but very nice young lady. And she seemed to be very comfortable kind of palling around with us. I felt like, even though she spoke no English, and when I found out she wasn't a Christian, of course, my interest in her was a lot greater. But we were there, and we had our food, and I ordered the chicken, and I got wings that were the best I've ever had. Nothing else close. They have a way of encapsulating the flavor on the crust of the chicken. It was amazing. I had the chicken. They ordered the fish. And I have just never seen fish served in the swimming position before. But it worked out really well because it's in that little rack and everybody has their chopsticks. Everybody's taking little pieces off there. But anyhow, interested in food even when I'm not eating it. And it was just a very comfortable atmosphere. I was never ceased to be amazed how comfortable I felt. But of course, I was with some people, but walking on the streets seemed to be no antagonism, no feelings of insecurity. And what we found was there was a guy who was blowing up balloons, and we all stopped and enjoyed that. And this was one of the young ladies that was with us, and her nickname is Monkey, so she had the lunch. But not too far beyond those lights, on down the river. The river's just kind of over the rail there. There's the reminder, statue of Ho Chi Minh. Oh yeah, this is Vietnam, and it is a communist country. But the church seems to have greater freedom and greater opportunity to be seen in the community than I had imagined in this way. Well, we're now down to the afternoon before I go to the airport, and I was sitting down there kind of, gathering myself, getting ready for the ride to the airport and the beginning of the long trip home. One of the teachers came downstairs and said, some of the students would like to come ask you some questions. What can I say? So they came down, and you can see me on the floor with my laptop. I've forgotten what I was doing, whether I was showing them pictures of my family or what I was doing. But here, this was what there were some students who wanted to ask the questions. One. This was the one with the courage. She sat there and she asked me the questions, of course, in English. And that was a delightful occasion. Just before I left, brought souvenirs for my family. One clearly marked for my wife, one clearly marked for my granddaughter, 3 marked for my grandsons. Just very thoughtful. And then I found out that and his girlfriend had taken some of their money and folded it in the heart shapes to give to me. They're very thoughtful, very sweet disposition, very affectionate people. And, you can feel the affection. So getting ready to leave, there I am at the airport with and the girlfriend came to the airport to say goodbye to me also. She worked not too far away, but she took time off to come there. And you may have seen this on the internet, the bear. I gave her the bear. One of the hotels where I stayed was under construction, and they had that on the bed. Please bear with us during our remodeling. And so I stuck it in my suitcase. I didn't know what I was going to do. The Carol doesn't have a bear collection. I thought, aha. And so I asked Of course, again, she doesn't speak English. Everything through him. I asked him earlier, what would you think do you think that she would enjoy something like that? Would it seem, too mature for a person of her age? And he said, no, I think she would like it. She loved the bear. So we have the picture there with the bear. And after I gave her the bear through the interpreter, I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take some time to talk to and his cousins about what they believe about the Bible. And she said that she would. Telling goodbye, it was hard for me. It was hard for him. Because it was hard for him, it made it harder for me. I've, as you all know better than anybody, been quite a few places in the past 2 or 3 years. I tell you, that was the hardest goodbye that I've had. There was just a genuine rapport there that was just great. But headed back home, this trip, because the countries were clustered, really wasn't as long as some of mine were, just a little over 20,000 miles. But thank you again for teaming up with me to help take the gospel into all the world. Thank you for your prayers, your interest, your encouragement, your financial support. And I would just tell you that if, it was kind of the end of the year when I was gathering up the funds, if you really wanted to contribute to the trip and you haven't yet, it's not too late. This time, really, for the first of all the trips that I've made, the amount that came in was really significantly less than the total cost of the trip. So if you were wanting to contribute to that, by all means, you can give it to the church, or you can give that to me. But it's not just the financial support, it's the interest that you have and the encouragement. I appreciate it very much. Taking the gospel into all the world. We're doing that. We are a team that's doing that. Of course, the gospel needs to go across the street. It needs to go around the neighborhood. Maybe the gospel needs to be taught to some people that are in the congregation tonight. If you have never taken the opportunity, if you've never realized the importance, you've never acted on the importance of becoming a Christian, if you've never done it before, do it tonight. It's a simple process. It requires the right kind of change of heart. The Bible calls that repentance, Luke 13:3. It requires a belief in God, a belief in Jesus, and willing to acknowledge Him before others, that He is the Christ, the Son of God. Like the man did in Acts chapter 8, and then be baptized, Acts 2:38, for the remission of sins. If you're here tonight and you've not done that, I would encourage you to do that tonight, while together we stand and sing.